Imagine you're pretty new to photography. You've had your kit lens either an 18 to 55 or a 12 to 30 odd if you're shooting micro four thirds, maybe a 12 to 60, and you kind of outgrow this lens. At the widest, it's not super wide. At its longest, it's not super long. So you ask a Facebook group, you ask your photography club, you ask on Reddit, you ask any other forum, you go to YouTube, everyone says, get a nifty 50. So welcome back to my channel. If you've been here before, if you're not, welcome. I'm going to dive into why 50mm became the go-to second lens for photographers. So the first thing I want to talk about is the claim that it's what your eyes see. And this confused me for a while because I was like, no, it seems a bit narrower than what my eyes see in terms of like field of view. So it's pretty close to what your eyes see. But in terms of distortion, I'm sure we've all seen this example, right? Where like someone's face is shot super wide and then also super long, and you can see the difference. And it's like how you get the dolly zoom effect from like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 or something like that. Like you can get a rough idea of what something will look like using your eye before you even look through your viewfinder with this lens. Most of these lenses have a pretty big aperture or a small aperture, whichever way you look at it. Basically what I mean is the aperture opens super wide. So this here opens up to f1.7. The one I had when I shot Canon opened up to 1.8. I think Leica make a lens for micro four thirds that opens up to like 1.4. Canon have a 1.2. But essentially these lenses they can open up, which means for low light shots, they're phenomenal. Most people start their photography journey with like a Canon Rebel or like a budget camera, right? And so their sensors, they might be a bit smaller or they might not work as well in low light, so you gotta bump up your ISO, which leads to noise. I shoot on a Lumix G9, a pretty expensive micro four thirds camera, but because of the sensor size, it just does not do well in low light or with high ISO. So a while ago when I went to a gig and I wanted to do a bit of gig photography, I brought this lens, and with the low light, it worked fine. But the aperture isn't just for low light. So back when I shot Canon and I had my 50mm there, I used to call it my sexy lens, right? Because you'd get that out of focus background, that kind of bokeh effect. Now, I know bokeh has kind of been like simplified to just mean blurry background, and that's not all it means, but it really does give you a nice out of focus kind of creamy background that looks good for headshots or for like focusing in on a subject or that kind of thing. People will say it trains you to be a better photographer. This one was rattling around in my head for a while. So what I did yesterday, I had to go to the post office, so popped this on my camera and just went out taking photos. And there's this one shot in particular. I'm aware this shot's nothing fancy. It's just a staircase next to an old abandoned bank. And it's not great. I've got this like weird pipe jutting out and the house is behind. So I'm aware it's not going to win any prizes or anything like that. But here is where it dawned on me what people mean by this makes you a better photographer. I suppose I should explain what I normally have on my camera. Normally on my camera, I have my Lumix 12 to 60. I actually made a video about this lens last week, so you can check that out if you want to see more about that. But with this lens, I can zoom in a bit, I can go wide, I can, you know, pretty much get a photo of anything like this by staying still. And with this lens, I had to work the scene. I had to walk forward, I had to walk backwards, I had to go and see what worked. And in the end, I got a composition that for the most part, I'm actually pretty happy with. But I was there for a few minutes, and that made me think more about the scene. I suppose that's why I bought the film camera as well, is to kind of develop that even further. And essentially it's just zoom with your legs, right? We've heard that expression before. You see it in Amazon reviews for nifty 50s as well. And it's just, you cannot zoom with the lens. So if you want to change the scene, you got to work it. And it's that sort of active work that will improve your composition skills as you go forward. I think this was like €140, but like if you shoot Canon, like an EF mount camera body, then you pick a nifty 50 up for like 100 to 150 quid used. Like you shoot Nikon, you shoot pretty much any system, you're gonna find that 50mm 1.8 or thereabouts is the cheapest prime lens that you can get. They're pretty affordable, so I suppose that's why they're recommended as well. A lot of people, the order they get the lenses, they have kit lens, they pick up a nifty 50, and then they go for like a 70 to 300 or something like that, which is kind of the order I went. I got my 12 to 60 for my Lumix, so 24 to 120 full frame. Then I got the nifty 50, and then I got this, which is essentially a 90 to 300. It's 45 to 150, just because micro four thirds. And I suppose the last reason I think people recommend this lens is, well, let's look at this Zenit body, right? A not super important film camera, 50mm f2. You look at pretty much any camera that came out a while ago that a lot of people in these forums and Facebook groups and all that kind of grew up with, a lot of like older professional photographers, their first main lens was probably a 50mm prime. And so if they learned using that tool and that tool taught them well, then of course they're going to recommend it. I think realistically the real reason these lenses are popular is because the cameras of old came with a 50mm that had a pretty fast aperture. So people that then like learn to shoot with those cameras are going to recommend people who are also needing another lens, be like, your kit lens isn't good, get yourself a nifty 50. That'll teach you how to shoot photos. As if kit lenses are bad. Kit lenses are great. I think people, I don't know why, what do people, maybe that's a video for the future. What do people have, why do people hate kit lenses? I'll pencil that in for next week. But I think if you've got the money to spare and you're feeling a bit kind of trapped by your lens that you currently have and you're kind of doing the same things with it and you need something to force your hand creatively, a prime lens of some sort is pretty good. What do you think? Do you have a 50mm? Are you going to pick one up? Let me know in the comments below, and if you like this video, give it a like. If you want to see more stuff like this, maybe give it a subscribe, and thanks for watching. Cheers.